Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Maller Grotner Plummer Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Maller Grotner Plummer Attorneys, understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis, on the web at lawngp.com. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. rural.indiana.edu. Smithville, fiber internet, security solutions, and voice in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Bunger and Robertson, attorneys at law since 1949, utilizing experience, knowledge, and resources to help individuals and families recover in personal injury matters. Information at lawbr.com. And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk. Indiana University is welcoming thousands of students back for the start of the fall semester Monday, but it's banning one pro-Palestinian group.
Maybe it's not surprising, but that's the pattern of what we've seen. Targeting this particular group for this particular speech.
IU says the Palestine Solidarity Committee poses a substantial risk to the community. A new extreme environmental chamber is being used to study how people react to extreme cold and heat.
They dress like a worker and do a number of different tasks, walking on a treadmill or doing upper body work or something of that nature.
The hot and cold chambers can range from 122 degrees Fahrenheit to minus 40 degrees. And we look back at the life of Bloomington entrepreneur Gayle Cook, who died last weekend at the age of 91. We'll have these stories and more right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Joe Wren. Well, students are returning to campus this week, but one IU organization is not. As Ethan Sandwise reports, the university has placed a pro-Palestine group on cease and desist for alleged risk to the community and is asking it to hand over a list of its members.
The chaos of move-in week is preceded by months of online content from IU, welcoming students back and hyping up the incoming class. Campus is crawling with parents pushing carts of luggage and groups of freshmen exploring their new digs.
I really wanted to have a fun experience, but I also wanted a good business program, and IU kind of has everything for that, so it's the perfect fit.
But not everyone is welcome back on campus. The Palestine Solidarity Committee, a student group involved in protests demanding IU divest from Israel, received a cease and desist from university authorities. In a letter to the group, the Office of Student Life describes the Palestine Committee as, quote, a substantial risk to the community, although it didn't specify the incident being investigated. The group's faculty advisor says IU is targeting it for protesting Israel's war in Gaza.
Maybe it's not surprising, but that's the pattern of what we've seen. Targeting this particular group for this particular speech.
IU Deputy Director for Media Relations Teresa Mackin declined an interview, but said in a statement that the investigation is ongoing. The Office of Student Conduct says its inquiry is tied to allegations of disruption of university operations and damage to property at some point in the past 2 years, possibly a reference to a 100-day occupation of IU's Dunn Meadow, protesting Israel's war on Gaza. During the investigation, the university says the group can't organize activities without permission and IU staff present.
I have no idea what they're talking about. So they're saying, it is alleged that you did something bad 3 years ago, 2 years ago. What is that?
The university is ordering the group to provide a roster of its members, including the date they became involved. Many PSC members participated in the protest, but members of other groups, such as the Indiana Divestment Coalition and Jewish Voice for Peace, took leading roles as well.
It seems like it's an intimidation attempt to get students to try and rat on other students, which is, disgusting in its own right. But the fact that they're trying to get students to turn on each other for supporting a genocide is especially disgusting.
The Office of Student Conduct sent its letter the day after IU professor Ben Robinson was officially reprimanded for criticizing the university and discussing in class his protests against the war in Gaza. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Ethan Sandwise.
The letter said if the committee doesn't comply, it could face additional charges and loss of recognition. Lieutenant Governor Micah Beckwith held another contentious town hall event last weekend, this time in Nashville. Clayton Baumgarth has more.
Beckwith debated residents on several controversial issues, including whether due process is selectively applied to illegal immigrants.
The due process says that you are owed something. When you break into our country illegally, you're not owed anything by our Constitution.
Beckwith likened the number of illegal immigrants in the country to an invading army that should be handled by a military tribunal process. He made similar comments at a town hall in Terre Haute earlier this month. The lieutenant governor also answered questions on redistricting and property tax reform. Beckwith said if Texas moves forward with redistricting, many states, including Indiana, will likely follow suit.
We don't like that there's all this gerrymandering going on, but if you guys are changing the rules of the game, we're going to play by the rules that you're forcing us to play by.
Beckwith also advocated for the elimination of property taxes altogether in Indiana, saying that taxing property is unconstitutional. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Clayton Baumgarth.
Beckwith says he'll keep holding in-person events after a contentious town hall Wednesday night in Warr County that led to arrests. Sheriff's deputies arrested 2 people in Newburgh after a woman allegedly shoved an officer on her way out the door. She's charged with battery against a public safety official. A second person is charged with resisting law enforcement and disorderly conduct. Well, we're joined now by Elise Perry for headlines from around the state. Hi, Elise.
Hi, Joe. All 7 of Indiana's representatives in the U.S. House are backing an effort to redraw the state's House district maps. It follows a national trend after President Trump asked Texas to redraw its House maps in an effort to pick up 5 more Republican seats in next year's midterm elections. Indiana's Victoria Spartz, who represents District 5, said in a post on X she fully supports mid-cycle redistricting to, quote, stand up for our republic. The Seymour Police Department says it helped in a coordinated law enforcement operation to arrest 11 undocumented immigrants in Jackson County on Monday. According to a news release from the FBI, which initiated the operation, the people arrested had outstanding warrants for serious violent crimes or entered the United States illegally. The FBI says the Jackson County Sheriff's Office and ICE enforcement and removal also helped make the arrests. The State Court of Appeals heard arguments this week in a case to determine if the city of Bloomington can annex western parts of Monroe County into the city. As Joe Wren reports, the appeal comes after a 5-day bench trial in May of 2024 found the city didn't meet the statutory requirements for annexation of 2 areas, 1A and 1B.
Monroe Circuit Court Special Judge Nathan Nykirk ruled the city didn't introduce evidence of future development while considering the best interest testimony from residents and understaffing of city departments. The city cited state statute to explain its annexation strategy.
Once a municipality annexes territory, it cannot annex further territory off of that unless it's a voluntary annexation. So Bloomington would not be able to annex all of these areas if they don't do it in a single ordinance.
Attorneys for county residents against annexation referred to evidence in the bench trial that county residents wouldn't be getting more or better services.
Ratepayer-funded sewer service for which these folks pay an additional 12%. The court heard that evidence, knew that evidence, and still concluded that it is in their best interest not to be annexed.
The state Supreme Court will hear arguments October 30th in the other annexation-related case over the constitutionality of remonstrance waivers. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Joe Wren.
Officials aren't sure when or what will occupy the former Joan Fabrics and at-home sites on the west side of Bloomington. But while the city doesn't have a direct say in what can occupy those spaces, it can help make the area more attractive for employers. That starts with building a diversified housing market that attracts more people.
Housing is a needed resource within our community, and certainly housing that is close in proximity to goods and services, like these areas where you're surrounded by retail, grocery stores.
The Joanne's site, as well as At Home, which will close at the end of September, fall within the mixed-use zoning district. That means both retail and housing are allowed. The Monroe County Public Libraries will close 2 hours earlier at 7 p.m. Monday through Thursday, beginning November 24th.
Our door count, computer use, and room reservation data all suggested a downward trend for those hours over the past few years.
The reduction of hours is part of cuts the library is making due to property tax revenue loss from Indiana Senate Bill 1. Other expected cuts include a reduction of 5 full-time positions over the next 2 years. The Hoosier Lottery expects to deliver about $341 million to the state this year, the lowest amount in the last 5 years. That's largely because sales of draw games, Hoosier Lotto, Powerball, and Mega Millions were down 38%. Lottery officials say the multi-state games are out of their control, so they focus on what they do control.
The number of scratch-offs, the launch of the scratch-offs, the style of the scratch-offs, and that has what has sustained us.
Lottery revenue helps teacher, police, and firefighter pensions and reduces the cost of license plates at the BMV. Indiana University entered into a $50 million sponsorship agreement to name its football field. The university announced today the field will be called Merchants Bank Field at Memorial Stadium. The 20-year agreement will include sponsorship labeling displayed on the new field, which was installed this summer. And Joe, the new partnership will be on display at the August 30th season opener against Old Dominion.
I'll be there. I think a lot of people are going to be there. It should be fun. Thank you, Elise. Well, this time of year is when hummingbirds in south central Indiana are most active. The birds migrate here from Central America and usually stick around through the end of summer. And if you have a feeder, you've likely seen the acrobatics the birds performed when there's more than one around. But are the hummingbirds playing or fighting? Here's a story by Joni Dugan from last summer.
Alex Georgescu bought a hummingbird feeder last summer after moving to Bloomington.
Yeah, in 15 minutes I was just still sitting here and hummingbirds started popping up. First was one, then multiple, and they would fight and cause all sorts of drama.
The hummingbirds zip and dart around in the air. Sometimes they'll chase each other, dive, and make loud noises to try to scare each other off.
I kind of think of them as flying medieval knights, with a lance, but instead of a lance, they kind of use their beak.
It's the hummingbird's way of defending their territory. A hummingbird's day usually revolves around one thing: finding something to eat.
Their very high metabolic rates at that small size requires them to constantly search for food.
The birds have to eat every 10 to 15 minutes. They rely on an abundant supply of nectar, although they are no larger than 3 to 4 inches and weigh less than an ounce.
The joint structure, the bone and muscle structure around the shoulder especially, allows them to do things that a lot of other birds can't do.
They can stop in the air instantly or start hovering. With precision, they can fly up or down. Their wings flap over 50 times per second. Their long curved bills allow them to drink nectar from tubular flowers. Their favorites are red, orange, and pink ones. In a given day, a hummingbird might visit as many as 2,000 flowers.
Hummingbirds are really territorial, right? They've got that good patch of food that they're going to defend it, and so they will kind of chase each other out.
That's Ken Keffer, co-owner of Wild Birds Unlimited in Bloomington. Their other natural food sources are insects and tree sap. Keffer says feeders can help supplement the natural supply of nectar. The simple sugar-water mix is 4 parts water to 1 part sugar. Dye isn't necessary, and Keffer says it could actually make the birds sick. They're naturally attracted to the colors of feeders. The birds don't realize the feeders won't be depleted as quickly as a flower, hence some of the intense aerial battles. Keffer says the key to keeping them from fighting is to try and keep them separate.
A lot of people can keep those multiple feeders separate, maybe move one to the backyard and one to the front yard to give a little visual separation to help. But yeah, it's just the nature of hummingbirds.
From March to August, male hummingbirds are looking for a mate. They might look like they're fighting, but in these cases, the birds are pulling out all the stops to impress the females.
So when male hummingbirds are doing their territorial displays, they'll often fly 50 feet up in the air and do these big U-shaped flights, and they'll dive back and forth, to kind of help attract a mate.
Researchers who study hummingbird behavior discovered males nosedive towards females at speeds of 40 to 50 miles per hour. They'll belt out high-pitched calls, and the wind going through their tail feathers will create a whistle. You'll notice the birds always dive towards the sun. This is to make sure their feathers are in the best light. It all takes just 300 milliseconds, the time it takes to blink. Georgescu did add multiple feeders to his backyard to try to keep the peace. He says it has helped some, and there seems to be less conflict. The feeders do require a lot of upkeep. They should be cleaned, and nectar should be changed every few days to keep the birds from getting sick.
Those are kind of the important things. Keep them fresh and clean, but the hummingbirds are drawn to them.
While they may be a little extra work to take care of, Keffer says hummingbird feeders are a great way to connect with nature in your backyard.
Watching nature just for a few minutes a day can really just help get rid of stress. We feel this when we go outside, right? You just feel better, you're happier, you're kind of less stressed, you're calm, your heart rate goes down.
Studies show bird watching can reduce stress more than other outdoor activities, such as walks. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Joni Dugan.
Hummingbird season lasts through October, when most will migrate south over the Gulf of Mexico. Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk. A new environmental chamber at Indiana University is being used to see how people react to extreme cold and heat. And we look back at the life of Gayle Cook, who along with her husband Bill, built a business empire and preserved history. These stories and more right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
Hey, I'm Rick Steves, and I'd like to take a moment to talk to you about the recent events that have impacted public television. You may have heard the recent news about Congress clawing back all funding for public broadcasting. While federal funding's gone, our commitment to this community has never been stronger. What we've built together is invaluable, and your continued support will shape what comes next. Please donate now. Go to this station's website, and we'll continue to serve you and your community. Thanks.
This is the moment I've been waiting for.
You could feel the richness of the story.
That's so awesome.
Penguins are incredibly dedicated parents.
The Marsh Pride have moved audiences for decades.
We're going to watch this calf through its first year of life. That's what we want to see.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. Hoosiers are remembering billionaire and historic preservationist Gayle Cook. She passed away Sunday at 91 years old. An accomplished businesswoman, she spent most of her later life saving history and supporting Indiana University. Aubrey Wright has more details on her legacy.
Hoosiers might not know all the ways Gayle Cook has touched their communities. She co-founded the medical manufacturing company Cook Group with her husband Bill Cook more than 60 years ago. The couple grew the company from a spare room in Bloomington to an international business. Here's Gayle Cook in a 2014 WTIU documentary.
The wonderful thing was that we had gotten into it at the very beginning, and then all of a sudden that was the thing to be studying and doing.
But their story didn't end with the company. The couple found another passion: historic preservation.
Bill liked the bricks and the mortar and working with the architect. I liked the history, the architecture, and the interiors and the period recreation. And so the combination kind of worked.
Their largest project was rejuvenating the West Baden Springs Hotel in French Lick.
And so many people will write or tell us that my mother used to describe what it was like, and I always hoped I could stay here and work, but never thought it would happen.
It led to a $560 million revitalization enterprise that ignited the region's economy and started a partnership with Indiana Landmarks.
They saw it as a tool to better the lives of the people in the community, not to just give them a sense of place and a connection to their place and the generations that came before, but a real commitment to the future.
In all, Gayle Cook worked on about 70 historic preservation projects. Another was the Indianapolis Central Avenue United Methodist Church, which later became the Indiana Landmarks campus. It was the last project Bill and Gayle Cook shared before he passed away in 2011.
I think Indiana Landmarks might have been able to put $4 million towards this project, and the Cook family quadrupled that investment.
But the Cooks invested a lot of time and money in Bloomington, where it all began for them. Gayle Cook helped save the Monroe County Courthouse from demolition, and the family brought Fountain Square Mall back to life. The Monroe County History Center also benefited from a partnership with the Cooks, especially with Gayle.
This is just me speculating, but I think they felt so welcome and they enjoyed Bloomington so much that this was their way to reinvest and really make it home.
Their reach extended to Indiana University, where Gayle Cook earned a fine arts degree. Like their other investments, it's hard to describe the sheer number of projects made possible by the Cooks.
My view of Gayle is Gayle the visionary, Gayle the wise person who values the humanities and the arts so much because she was sincere about knowing where we came from. We can look ahead and say where we're going to go, but how did we get to where we are?
The university named the Center for Public Arts and Humanities after her. And another donation led to updated and equal facilities for Hoosier basketball teams. And then there's the world-renowned music library and scholarship funds. And you can't forget the couple's decision to bring permanent lights to Memorial Stadium, even down to the historically accurate windows at Bryan Hall. Gayle Cook left traces all over IU.
To me, that's her legacy, is that there are people whose trajectory of their lives has been altered, either because they received a scholarship that sent them off in a direction they wouldn't have gone, or they learned something or found themselves in a physical place where they can imagine being better and different.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Aubrey Wright.
Gayle Cook is survived by her son Carl, daughter-in-law Marcy, and granddaughter Eleanor. Indiana University recently unveiled a new extreme environmental chamber which aims to study how people deal with extreme cold and heat. Isabella Vesperini has more about how it works.
Within 40 feet, your body can experience temperatures from negative 40 degrees Celsius to 50 degrees Celsius, and it's all happening in this chamber behind me. IU researchers say that this chamber will help them better understand temperature tolerance. Funded by the U.S. Department of Defense, aims to understand how people operate in extreme temperatures, particularly workers and military in the Arctic.
You can only put on so many clothes before you become the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man or the kid on the Christmas Story movie, where you can't move. So we're trying to generate mechanisms where we can increase the body's internal heat production. And perhaps maybe you don't have to put on as many layers of clothes to stay warm.
The new chamber is divided into 2 rooms with a warm side and a cold side.
The warm chamber can go from 0 degrees Celsius up to 50 degrees Celsius. So from about 32 to 122 Fahrenheit. And we can tightly control the humidity within that range. The cold side can go from 0 degrees Celsius down to minus 40 degrees Celsius.
With a grant of $915,000 to work with, it was cheaper for Johnson & Schlater to divide the chamber into 2 rooms instead of having one big room.
When you go to a restaurant in town, you have to walk through the foyer and a vestibule to get to the inside of the restaurant. Well, that's there to buffer temperature changes. And so the warm side really acts to buffer that temperature change between the outside of the chamber and the cold side.
Johnson & Schlater started their research in the chamber just last month. So far, they have studied how subjects react to being in extreme heat for a long period of time.
They dress like a worker and do a number of different tasks, walking on a treadmill or doing upper body work or something of that nature.
The professors hope to better understand heat acclimation and find a way to accelerate the process and decrease the risk of heat illness. Extreme heat is the leading weather-related cause of death in the U.S., with an average of 1,300 deaths per year.
Think general public, a heat wave hits, air conditioning fails, what can we do to keep them healthy?
This tool will also give students hands-on learning experience and opportunity to do research early in their careers.
Let's talk about say, extreme cold, and then let's go experience it for just a short period of time. Like, this is what this feels like. You turn a fan on, and this is what wind chill feels like, as opposed to just sitting in a lecture talking about it.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Isabella Vesperini.
And the Fairfax Beach at Lake Monroe finally opened today after being closed all summer due to high water levels, but it will only be open until Labor Day, a week from Monday. Now, the beach at Paintown will not open at all this year. The fishing piers at Paintown and Cutright also remain closed until the water levels drop another couple feet. That's the end of this program, but our work continues online as we cover the news throughout the week at WTIUnews.org. Have a great weekend.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Maller Grotner Plummer Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Maller Grotner Plummer Attorneys, understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. On the web at lawngp.com. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. rural.indiana.edu. Smithville, fiber internet, security solutions, and voice in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Bunger and Robertson, attorneys at law since 1949, utilizing experience, knowledge, and resources to help individuals and families recover in personal injury matters. Information at lawbr.com. And by WTIU members. Thank you.